Hi, it's Saralise. I wanted to make this video to introduce myself and the Portland Priestess Portal, which is a year-long Ascension Integration and Global Sacred Sites tour around the planet for the benefit of all beings. And I'd really love to just share my story for a minute about what my journey has been like up until now. So, starting when I was 4, which is probably the best way to introduce this, I received a full download from a group of divine beings that were blue. There were 7 of them, and I knew that I was one of those beings. And so it was very interesting to me because as I was receiving the information, I said, yep, got it, okay, great. And I just naturally received everything without any hesitation or frustration or being scared at all, which was interesting because something like that might be a little scary to a little girl. But for me, it was just completely natural, and I knew that it was true. And so I, of course, rushed out to tell my mom and my dad, and of course my dad was like, oh, none of that in this house. And then my mom was like, oh, that's nice, honey. You know, she was like really just tried to calm the situation down, and she never once in my life did she reject what I was saying to her. And I used to tell her things when I was young, like, oh, I was the queen of Egypt and I ruled for 40 years. She's like, oh, honey, that's so sweet, you know. But she would never say, oh, that's just your imagination, or, you know, anything like that. She was always very accommodating to me. And as I got older, she started showing signs of dementia. And I was in my 20s, my early 20s, and she was starting to unravel. And a big part of that, I truly believe now, is that she was carrying what's called the codes of light. And she was being harassed, essentially, by darker forces, and she did not know how to communicate that. And she didn't know how to really live with that. It was very scary for her. And my father was obviously no help. And he was in the military, and then he became a civil engineer, and, you know, very scientific, you know, mindset. And so I grew up in a very scientific household. But I also had my mom, who was a Christian, but she was also very open to everything. She was just wide open. She had been a Unitarian before she met my dad. So she had an opportunity to explore life prior to meeting my dad. And this is just a little bit about my childhood. So as I grew older, I only shared my visions and my dreams with my mom because I felt safe sharing them with her. And I was really, really, really lucky to have her. I mean, oh my God, I don't know what I would have done without her. She was such a profound influence on my life. And as I got older in my 20s, she ended up passing when I was 35. She went into dementia for 8 years, and she eventually passed. She used to tell me things like, oh, they were chasing me, and she'd like bump and like crack her head open and bleed and, you know, pass out on the couch, like when she was in her dementia. And I didn't find out about this stuff until after it had happened, of course, and was traumatized by it and had a lot of emotional trauma from hearing about these things, not knowing what to do to help her. And so now I understand it very, very differently. And one of the things that is the core understanding that I have is that each and every one of us is carrying codes in our DNA, codes of light. And there are some of us who are carrying specific codes for the ascension of humanity at this time, during this shift in consciousness. And so as I have grown in my own journey, in my own spiritual awakening journey that I've been on, one of the things that I have come in contact with is understanding how I fit into that lineage and how I carry those codes within my DNA, and how that affects larger groups of people, and how that affects the planet itself in her journey that she's on at this time. So having said that, I will tell you a little bit about my previous history, my soul's history, which might be helpful in terms of where our divine mission is now. And I say our because I believe that we are a part of this soul collective agreement that we made a long time ago, a soul pact, during the time of Lemuria, or when the ancient motherland Mu was in existence, which was hundreds of thousands of years ago. And the story that I can share with you is one that is very, very deep in my heart. And that is that I feel, or felt, and I've done the work around it, but I have felt fully responsible for the massacre of my tribe at that time. And that tribe was a tribe of 222 priests and priestesses that came to this planet from other galaxies, and lived as a mermatic tribe before walking onto land and shapeshifting into a divine human. So we have been here a very, very long time. We're probably the most ancient tribe on this planet. If, you know, there might be others, but we are one of the most ancient tribes here. And before the massacre, we met in private. And during that ceremony, we made an agreement to come together at this time in history with this shift for the planet, and to bring back and awaken those divine feminine and divine masculine codes that have been lying dormant for hundreds and thousands of years. And so, and putting them onto the new earth grid, the new earth light grid that is being formed at this time. And so as our agreement, we have been finding each other and coming back into resonance with each other, and working in tribes and working in groups to bring this forth. And I have been personally guided to, and been given the grace to hold space for a global sacred sites tour on this planet, to activate these dormant codes and bring them back online onto the New Earth grid, and to bring healing ceremonies, sacred sound concerts, and performance ritual and activations for people in communities all over the world at sacred sites on the planet. And they're very specific sacred sites that maybe people don't even know about, but that we have been guided to go to and activate. So having said all of that, my story, I grew up in an alcoholic home. I didn't have a lot of encouragement from my family in terms of expressing myself creatively. I was shut down every time I would shine really brightly. I would get, slammed pretty much every single time. And so I became smaller and smaller and smaller, and I started to curl up into this cocoon. And this cocoon held me safely for a very, very long time. And as I started to, metamorphosize and started to get really itchy, and I started feeling really like, this is too tight, and I started to bust out of these, silk threaded, walls of the cocoon, and I started to come out, and I started to burst into this butterfly that didn't have a place to fly, didn't know where to fly or where all the other butterflies were, And so I went through some very serious integrations and explorations of myself during that time, because I literally was alone. I felt alone on this planet for many, many, many years, until the last couple of years. I intuitively activated my DNA 9 years ago, not knowing what I was getting myself into, but just knowing, oh, it's time for me to activate my DNA. And after I did that, the Da Vinci Code rose up, and like all this stuff about Mary Magdalene came into the field, and I was like, whoa, okay, I had something to do with that. I don't know what, but that's definitely connected to me. And the reason I knew this was at the age of 11, I started studying the Bible. I was part of a fundamentalist Christian, born-again Christian church, and I started studying the Bible, and I was having visions and memories of Yeshua. I choose to call him Yeshua. His name is Jesus. But to me, he's Yeshua. So I started having visions of him and memories of all the people around me, and was like, wait a minute, this doesn't match what I'm experiencing. And so I started to go crazy. And by the time I was 14, I was suicidal, and I wanted to get off this planet. I mean, I didn't want to kill myself, but I was like, get me out of here. I'm not dealing with this. I'm not doing this alone. You know, forget this. You know, and I must be crazy, and blah, 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 blah. So eventually, though, I learned that what I was experiencing was an aspect of my soul, which incarnated as Mary Magdalene. And I truly believe that our soul, our collective oversoul of Mary Magdalene, has split off her codes into many, many soul threads on this planet at this time, and that we, the divine feminine, are coming forth to bring this essence into the collective in such a powerful, beautiful, soft, gentle way that it will kind of ease into the collective in such a way that we can then be present for those of us that need that support and need those codes to be activated within all of us. Because there's a lot of us that are carrying these really super magical, beautiful light codes, a language of light that can influence and direct the energies on this planet towards the golden age and the new earth. And so, having said that, when I was 14, I drowned in the ocean and was in the undertow, and I came back up and was washed on shore. And they brought me back, and I just jumped up and ran away and said, get me away from all these people, like, go away, I need to be alone. So I ran away. It's so crazy, but I ran away. And everyone's like, no, no, you can't go. You're not even in your body yet. I said, precisely. Let me just be alone, you know. So I went away, and I walked down the street, and I started to hear cars like screeching to a halt, and I looked over, and they were all looking in my direction, and all of a sudden, from above me, I felt this white light come into my body, like this white being, this divine being, just settle in, you know, and wash over me. And what I understood or received was, your future is so bright. Please stay with us. Please, we beg of you, we will be here for you in every moment. We love you. And I just collapsed and fell on the ground and started crying and convulsing, and people came over to me and they're like, are you all right? And you know, it was definitely a scene. It's very dramatic. And so at that time, I had started drinking and was just trying to annihilate myself. I was just drinking really heavily. I was age 14. I just wanted out. And so in that moment, I realized that my future specifically was very special. And no matter what that meant, I was going to hang on. And I was going to take advantage of this memory, this experience that I had experienced and keep it and hold it sacred to my heart. And so I did that, and I drank for 10 years solid. And how it ended for me is I almost killed someone in a head-on collision at the age of 24, 10 years later. And something, an act of providence, turned the wheel and stopped the car when I was possessed by an entity. I was about to hit someone, and something literally turned the wheel and stopped the car. My hands were not on the wheel, my feet were not on the pedals, and I heard a booming, booming, loud man's voice say, "This is your last chance." And, you know, to me, that was like the voice of God, you know. And I was like, whoa, okay, I get it, you know. And the next day, I got sober. I can't tell you that I stayed sober. I actually went back out and I started drinking again, and then I almost died in another car accident, and that is when I got sober a couple months later. So I had a few tries, you know, I had a few attempts at my life to get me to, and there have been three things that happened the first time around. I was raped and almost murdered. I woke up with alcoholic paralysis on the floor of some stranger's house, and then I also had that almost head-on collision. And I will never forget this man's eyes as long as I live. I can still see his eyes burned into my memory. And I've never been able to clear those eyes, which is kind of interesting because I've cleared a lot of my stuff, you know, and I've worked really hard to clear my consciousness and work with positive, you know, implants for all the past life traumas, and I've cleared a lot of past life karma, and I've cleared over 50% of my karma at this point. So for me, I am on the ascension path. I am on the ascension program, if you will, rather than the death program. And so as a result of that, I have been asked, in so many words, by my guidance or my guides to hold space to bring forth those of us who are holding this agreement, and to help assist in any way that I can in the ascension of the human race, so that we can all step into the golden age of the new earth, if you will, together. And so, having said all of that, which I keep saying that, which is really funny, because this video just keeps going on and on, my story is kind of long, and at the same time it is very short and sweet. And the basic thing that I want to share with you is that I've suffered a lot in this incarnation. I've been through a lot of abuse. I've had a lot of suffering, if you will, and I have chosen at this point not to suffer anymore. And so as a result of that, my life has changed a lot. And because my life has changed a lot, I've also experienced deliberate interference from forces that would not have me do what I'm here to do. But at this point, I'm like, bring it. You know what I mean? Because I'm just like, it doesn't matter anymore. I am here. I am present. I am fully embodied in my body now. And my only wish is to bring forth that which serves the highest good, always, and for the benefit of all beings, not just humans, but the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the tree kingdom, the crystal kingdom, the mineral kingdom, the David kingdom, the elemental kingdom, the celestial kingdoms, the galactic brothers and sisters. So I received at 4 years old a download about these 144 sacred cities of light on the surface of the planet that would be created, and 13 of those being the predominant metropolitan sacred cities of light. And so in that process, I created the Sacred Village Project, which is a longer term project that extends at least to 2022 for the building of these cities that will be built with light codes, intention, and prayer. So very different than the average city that's built with a hammer and a nail. It's more like prayed into existence, although we are using physical materials and being in harmony with the earth herself, and making sure that everything, all kingdoms are being considered when we build. So that is where it started for me in terms of bringing this forth. And then I got a very strong directive, which I kicked and screamed about for quite a while. And this is where you guys come in, you girls, guys, priests, priestesses, whoever you are. This is where you come in, into this agreement that we've made. This agreement to bring forth those dormant codes and activate them and do the earth grid work that we are here to do, that we agreed to do to finish our journey together. And as we go through this journey together, we get to each bring our gifts so completely to the collective and be seen and heard. Everything will be documented. We will be living this experience collectively, kind of like a real world television show, except for it will be the real world, the Gaian world, the Gaian principle expressing itself physically for us to see and to experience and to bring forth here and now. So I invite you to travel on this journey with me. I invite you to come participate in your own ascension integration and really feel into this for yourself if you are in alignment and resonance with this ascension integration, with this global tour. And the thing is not every single person needs to go on these tours or on the tour itself. We're going to have ground crew everywhere, and we're going to have people stationed in all parts of the world. So it's not like every single person has to travel with us. The commitment that I am making and that I invite you to make is for full embodiment, for full participation in your own experience here and now on planet Earth during this transition that we are making into light. And whether that means for you that you participate physically and walk the earth with us, or whether that means you stay grounded and you harness and ground out all of us while we travel. However that looks for you, you will know what you are guided and directed to do, and that is for you to decide. And so I just invite you to feel into and resonate with, what is your spoke of the wheel? What do you bring? Bring it. Just bring it. And what is it that you want to say? What is it that you want to express, whether you're using words or sound or just sitting still? How is it that you resonate? What is your frequency? What is your energetic signature at this time? And what are you being guided to participate in for your divine mission, for your soul's journey? I invite you to ponder that and really, really take into your heart who we are as people, who we are as souls, and who we are together as divine humans on this planet at this time. Many blessings, dear one.